In this video, we're going to talk about how to build and interact with arrays in Visual Basic within Excel. And so the first thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and open up our Visual Basic window. So we'll go to the Developer tab and click on Visual Basic. And then we'll go ahead and we'll insert a module. Now I'm going to go ahead and create a public subroutine by typing public sub, and we'll call this one static array. Remember not to put spaces in between your variables or subroutine names or anything like that within VBA. Put the open and close parentheses at the end, and then we're going to go ahead and declare our first array. Now, arrays are declared similarly to regular variables. We type dim to mean declare, and then students, which is going to be the name of my array. And if this was a normal variable, we would go ahead and type as string or whatever at the end. And in this case, string just means that this variable is text. So this is what a normal variable declaration would look like. But in the case of an array, we're going to go ahead and put open and close parentheses here. And we're going to tell the system to expect values 0 to 4. So by typing this open parentheses, close parentheses, and telling the system expect 0 to 4, within these parentheses, I've turned this normal variable declaration into an array variable declaration. And this tells the system I have a variable named students. It is an array. It has 0 to 4 items within it, which really means it has a 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 item, meaning 5 total items since the indexing starts with 0. And it is all going to be text. So we can go ahead and assign values to those now. So we'll say students 0, and in this case this means the 0th item of my students array, so the very first item, and we'll go ahead and use John, and we'll say the second item, which corresponds to the index number 1, is going to be James. Then we'll have one for Hannah, one for Connor, and one for Christina. Now I've put quotation marks around all of these names to signify to the system that they are text. And we can see I have 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is what I've told the system to expect for this array. So now all of these items are going to be stored as an array, as a sort of list within the system. And now we'll be able to come back in later and pull out any of these numbers to find any of their corresponding value. So let's go ahead and give an example of that. I'm going to create an integer type variable, which just means a number, and I'll call this one n. And then I'm going to set n equal to an input box, meaning we're going to ask the user what they want to store in the value n, and we'll say which student number do you want to view. And we'll call this, the title we'll say is student ID. And then last but not least, after we've pulled the value n, which is the corresponding student number, we'll want to show what that name was that we pulled the number for. So we'll create a message box that says you selected, colon space. Then we use the and sign or ampersand to make sure that I'm going to combine these two text strings. I'm going to say students n, and we'll call this message box student name. Now I put this extra comma here because that is usually what the buttons are for your message box, so I jumped over this, which means it's just going to be an OK button. And we can see right now the section in bold is what section I'm working in right now, which is the title of the box, which I've given to be student name. Now up here we assigned values to our array variable by saying the array variable parentheses the item number close parentheses equals this particular value. So each of these item numbers corresponds to the value that we assign to it. So in this case, we're going to pull a new value, a new item number, n, which is what the user will input, and then we're going to output that item number, so students n, and this is going to read what is currently stored in the nth value of students. So for example, if we enter the value 3 for n, we should expect it to read back to us Connor. Now what I'm going to do is I am actually going to type this list onto our main screen here so that we know which names correspond to which values. And once we're ready to run our code, we can go to macros, select our static array macro and click run. It's asking us which student number we want to view, so we'll say 3 and click OK. And we can see you selected Connor, which is what we expect to show up for the value 3. So we know our array is behaving properly, the message box is behaving properly, everything is working as expected. But let's say we actually decide to add a 5th student to this list. And let's say this is Eddie. Now, we should expect this to read an error when we try to run it, and that's because we've told the system our array should only have values 0 to 4. And we've just created a 5th item down here. So we should expect the system to flag this as an error. So I'll come over here, I'll go ahead and put Eddie onto our list just so that we know. And I'll go to macros, highlight my macro, and click run. And I do get a pop-up error message. It says subscript out of range. If we click debug, it will highlight the line that's giving us a problem. And it has highlighted our 5th line here, where we've tried to create a 5th item, Eddie, into our array, which is only supposed to hold up to the 4th item. So go ahead and click this stop button to reset your code. If we comment out this line by putting a little apostrophe, we can see it turns green. And if we try to run this again, the code should skip right over this line and go back to working properly. So we'll try it one more time, go to macros, run static array. This time let's view whatever's in item 2, click OK, and we can see we selected Hannah. So now the code is back to working properly. And again, that's because we've told the system ahead of time this array is going to have values for items 0 to 4, and then all of a sudden we tried to create a 5th item, which obviously breaks that sizing that we gave to the array earlier. So this begs the question, can we resize our static array? Well, in the case of our static array, as we have here, all we need to do is come back in and change this number to be 5. We can go ahead and get rid of the apostrophe so that this is no longer a comment line. And now we've told the system, originally this read 0 to 4, meaning we could only hold up to our 4th item. Now we've changed it to read 5, so now we should be able to hold up to our 5th item here, which should read Eddie. So we can go ahead and try running this again. I'll come down here to macros, highlight static array and click run. And we can see now it seems to be working. Just to double check, we'll put the number 5 and click OK. And it outputs Eddie. So we know this works. We can go ahead and resize our variable by changing the numbers up here. But there is actually a better way to do this, and that is with a dynamic array. In this video, we talked about static arrays, which are the simplest kind of array that you'll encounter in Excel's VBA. In our next video, we'll cover dynamic arrays, which take our array knowledge a little further by letting our arrays grow and shrink dynamically throughout our code.